So once again, the gods and the goddesses have given us another day to become better men, better women, better husbands, better wives, better mothers, better fathers. One of the things that we learn when we study Wotanism and really get into the myths and the lore and get into a lot of the writings that is associated with the Wotanist outlook, such as you'll see a lot of brothers quote Nietzsche, C.G. Jung, and many others. And one of the common themes that we see is the two aspects of the individual, and they really can be broke down to the higher self and the lower self. And one of the things that I see a lot of is that a lot of us are still working on the lower self aspect, which is where your ego, your pride, your whole outlook really begins from there. And Wotanism seeks to have us looking from a higher self perspective, meaning rise beyond the base desires and the base knowledge and the base understanding. And one of the ways that we do this is by applying the teachings that we find within the Poetic Edda, within the Prose Edda, many of the myths and the lore, and by reading the books and the works of the men and women who have went in and really broke down a lot of the, you could say, the knowledge within it. I hear a lot of people tell other people on Facebook, all you have to do is read the Prose Edda, the Poetic Edda, and that's it. Fulfill bloats, fulfill, your rune castings and stuff like that. And I just, on a personal level, I feel that is so wrong to tell people that, because there is so much more within Wotanism that we can learn. And we really give our ancestors a discredit if we continue to propagate that they didn't deal with the spirituality of man, that they didn't deal with the rising of the man and the woman in the myths and the lore. Because this outlook is dangerous, because there is many instances within the Prose Edda, the Poetic Edda, that teaches man to rise above the norm. When we look at the myth dealing with the seeking of knowledge by the god Wotan, we see that this wasn't a physical seeking of knowledge that he was looking for. When we see and we look at the death of Balder, when we look at the stealing of the Brisinga, and we look at the Thor's hammer, we get deep into the lore of Sigurd. We see that our ancestors had a deep understanding of the spiritual. And I think that for many of us, at some point in time, we need to get beyond our egos. We need to get beyond our pride. And in many cases, we need to get beyond our outlook on what is right for people and what is not right for people when it comes to Wotanism. Because in Wotanism, there's many different paths. Some will always stay on the knowledge of lower self. They will always react to with their anger. They will always see everything in the light of which multiculturalism wishes them to look. And this is basically the placing of the mind in slavery, is basically what the lower self is. The journey to the higher self is to begin to break those chains of slavery, mental slavery. It's a path of rising. It's a path of enlightenment. It's a path of really communion with the gods and getting to know who the gods are and what the ancestors were truly trying to teach. This is the main reason why when you study the runes, there's been so many books written about it, because they're really on a spiritual level, not necessarily always stuck on a physical level. So my positive thought for today is start that journey to the higher self and begin to do battle with the lower self. I put a post out a couple days ago, and in the post I said, no one should say that they'll die for this or they'll die for that, and they haven't first killed that which lies within. And what I meant by that was the killing of the lower self, the killing of all things that holds you back from being the wokeness that you were meant to be. And one of the things that we have to learn is this is a journey that some people can point us in a direction, but they can't give it to us. So with that said, rise to your higher self. Become the men and women you were meant to be. Forget what everybody else thinks. Helsa, hold the heathen hammer high. Later.